Welcome back to Logical Magic, Examining Esoterica. Hey guys, today I have a fun person here for you. Her name is Abbie Martin. She's from Intuitive Resources. She's a practicing Wicca, a Wiccan, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about the practice of Wicca. We're going to be approaching this from a beginner standpoint. As you know, in a healing journey, it is good to diversify, to seek out a spiritual practice, as well as something that helps connect you to your intuitive flow, and if you're interested in it, your magical flow. Now, the cool thing about Wicca is it can do both, and Abbie and I have a very similar philosophy that there is no one universal truth, but you will be drawn to the truth that is right for you, that nothing has all the answers because we can't truly understand what the truth of a divine power and energy and magic really is in this shape and this form. And so we break them down into narratives that are told to us. And if you examine most belief systems and most approaches to magic, they're all saying the same things with different wording. And you will be called to the right answers for you. Hey, Abbie, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
All right, ma'am. So can you tell me a little bit about your Wiccan practice? What is Wicca?
So it is, it depends on who you ask sometimes. So I always preface that we were talking about everybody has a different philosophy. So I always say this is mine. And so Wicca is a old religion, so to speak, of giving you a process, a modality, a set of beliefs for you to practice connecting to the divine. Mm-hmm. So you can do spells, a lot of it's prayer, and a lot of it's working with the energies and the elements.
And
does that help?
Yeah, it does help quite a bit. One of the things that is good about a Wiccan practice is that a lot of people find extra healing help and extra intuitive help when they have a ritualistic practice around their beliefs. Because particularly when people are recovering from trauma, anything that has structure to it begins to give them a foundation upon which to stand, which is why Wicca can be such a good answer for people. Can you tell me about the figureheads of Wicca? We approach the divine first and then the second in Wicca.
And so I want to, and remind me to come back to that, because what I want to start with is that the ritual component of it is what drew me to it, because I feel like we are all looking for rituals in order, it gives us all a sense of safety, you know, when you have something that you can count on and it helps you with that feeling of being connected. The second thing for me, why I really was attracted to Wicca was the earth-based element of it, you know, very much that if you look at, you know, I use my astrology chart, it was sort of my aha moment. I have a ton of water, I have a ton of air, and I have a lot of fire. I have like no earth. And so for me, Wicca was this practice that grounded me. And so I work a lot with the earth energy, and I do nothing in it without being grounded. And that's what transformed all of it. So it was helping me, you know, come into balance. So I wanted to say that piece first before I forgot. The second question you asked was, you know, about the deity. So I think that is also very personal. Most of us will say the goddess, you know, in reference to the divine. I tend to use the word the divine. It feels like there's so much caught up, you know, for people versus masculine, feminine. And I think we're coming into a time where we're really trying to balance that out. So I call it the divine, but a lot of people in Wicca will talk about Mother Earth and the goddess. You know, and that's so, which makes sense to me. And I think that's a very grounding practice, right? And nurturing way when you're working with Wicca.
I appreciate you saying that, because we all contain masculine and feminine energies. And I'm one of those people who's living proof that socialization really determines your approach to your gender, because I was so poorly socialized that like I had to socialize myself as in my 20s. It went okay.
Yeah.
It was a stumbling sort of thing.
Fascinating.
As a result, the energy that I give off is very balanced between masculine and feminine, because I did not actually have a maternal figure in my life. One of the good things about Wicca and the approach through the feminine divine, which is the same thing as the masculine divine, it is just going towards the ability to produce and be abundant, that most people will approach magic through a feminine aspect. The good thing about that is it can help people who did not have a good nurturing experience feel as if they are being nurtured, as if they are in contact with the elements. What I'm always telling people is, on a healing journey, you want to
Yep.
represent all four of those elements. And the earth, which is a 3D element, is very important in a spiritual practice as well, because your most intuitive, your most accurate intuitive impulses and answers will actually be very grounded. You have to be grounded before you reach for something beyond this plane, beyond this dimension. And even when you're doing magic, or you can get really funky and temporary results. That is why the earth element in magic is so essential to long-lasting, strong, and often slowly built magic.
Yeah.
A lot of the rituals in Wicca work the same way as celestial and angelic magic, which deals with the guardians of the four corners, which in my belief system are the four archangels, but you are also calling to the elements, and we call them in very much the same way. I am aware of that. Can you tell me about a couple of basic practices and rituals within Wicca, please?
Sure. So, and what I was mentioning before, I've been trained in a lot of modalities, so I add a couple things, and I'm going to try and just keep it to Wicca so that I can stay on topic. But for me, the first piece before I do anything is the grounding piece. So I spend a lot of time really connecting. Before I do any kind of ritual, I will do what I can, if I can physically, to go stand outside barefoot, like that's, if I can do it outside, that's my preferred method of like really feeling connected and making sure that I do that. The second piece is to set up some protection, and what I would say is setting up boundaries, right? So you're probably familiar with that. And that's what we call calling in the quarters. And so we're inviting in each of the elements to come in. And then once you get that and you're, you come into your, centered place, then you're calling in the divine. So I always have people call in who they feel comfortable with, but and to me, I feel like we cannot know the divine in these human 3D bodies. So I'm like, I make sure I put that in there, like, however,
I believe
yeah. And calling in the divine. And so I the visual I have is like the connection into our 3D, into earth, into our physical, then the heart opening component, and then bringing in the divine, and then the elements. And then I will call in some of the, you want to call them deities. Maybe there's, Bridget, some goddesses, and what I have found is that if you really read up on a lot of the goddesses, they're badass, so they have a really nice combination to me of the feminine and the masculine. So sometimes I'll bring in other, they can be masculine. Like for me, it's whatever I'm working on at the time. Some people need the same ones, every time to feel that ritual piece. For me, it's the invitation, and bringing them in and protecting the thing. And so then what you want to do is you want to close the circle. So I always do my finger, something where I'm setting my space so that when I'm in here, that's when I'm making either a prayer, a request, the manifestation work, whatever that looks like within that sacred container. And then when you're done, then there's gratitude, so there's some sort of physical component. Maybe you're putting in herbs, you're lighting a candle, can just be, it can be as simple as just saying a prayer. It doesn't have to be all of the other things. You're just saying like, I'm looking to connect and seek guidance. It's that simple. And then you close it. Then you say you're closing with gratitude. And then you're saying, like, I always say, you're welcome to stay, but you're free to go. Like, you were here. Thank you. And then I open the space. So that's sort of the outline.
Is there any offering involved?
Sometimes. I think, like there's a lot of traditions where there's some sort of offering. For me, I will sometimes make, I've done many things, right, where I'll go, and after I've done it, then I do the offering to the earth of, the gratitude of whatever work I've done. I don't do that every single time, depending on what I'm what I'm working with or what I'm looking to do. But I think that is the offering is a very physical thing to do to express your gratitude and to say like I'm wanting to share this. And I believe it speaks to the law of reciprocity. You know that we're always so we're in there. We're like, I want to manifest this. Give me millions, and And I don't think that the goddesses or the divine care very much. I think they get it, but I think it's the intention of being in that flow of reciprocity.
Um, that's a very important thing that I'm always getting people to understand. If you are watching a free resource, stop, take a moment, watch a commercial, hit the thumbs up button. You are creating, it's not just that it's polite and honoring
Yeah.
the creator's efforts, which the creator of the video or the resource, it is that it creates something called an energy exchange.
Yes.
One of the rules of magic is if you take something, you leave something. And when
Yeah.
you are asking for something to be brought to you, if you are not making an offering to the powers that you are calling upon, what you need to have is a solid plan for how you will give back. If you're sitting there saying, make me rich, figure out what nonprofit you're going to fund when you have these riches. And you'll better and more long-lasting results. If you are asking for something to be given to you in order to maintain an energetic balance that will thrive and flow, you need to give something back. And people struggle with that because we live in a society that's very capitalistic, and so we think about gain, 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 and it's no balance, 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 guys, balance, balance, balance. Particularly when you're talking about calling in the elements. Now, it is my understanding that the funny thing about celestial and angelic magic is it is related to Enochian magic, which is a form of chaos magic. And that does mean that in celestial and angelic magic, you are allowed to do cafeteria style sort of magic where you hop around between belief systems and can call different goddesses and gods to you from different belief systems because it's intent, not the ritual that gives you access. And if you work with good intent, we try really hard to get pure intent, but it's very difficult. One of the belief systems in Wicca is that if it harms none, do what you will. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think that is the most important thing because I get a lot of people, particularly when they want to manifest love or, or somebody has hurt them and they're looking to heal. There's this natural need to want to lash out, or to do something. And it's the do no harm. And so I've worked with other Wiccas, who they feel like they can have a handle on it. Like I think I would say that they're on the ego side of it of like, I'm strong enough to handle that. I can do all of that. And I very much am, I feel very aligned with that law of reciprocity. That's just how I've worked with that language of the offerings. Because, I've had so many people, myself included, who were scarred with the whole, you have to tithe, you have to tithe. Like, I think that's why people get, and they forget that what we're trying to teach is that, you have to give. So I'm not a fan of, putting any of that negative, putting that out there, because I do believe somehow, some way, maybe it's in another lifetime, who knows, but it will come back. And so whatever I'm putting into my spell, whatever I'm putting into my ritual is for the good of all, or something better like that. And that's it. There's nobody that should be harmed. Boundaries don't harm. Like if you're wanting somebody out, a good boundary is not harming a person.
Yes, you can banish somebody, you just can't punish them.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because people, when they are hurt, they want to lash out. And you did talk a little bit about that. But here's one thing you need to understand. If you are not reaching for an energy source, it has a really hard time reaching you. And so if you're going towards something painful and dark and vindictive, then you are opening a door, and it might do what you want, but what's it allowing into your life in exchange? Is it really worth it to invite in something destructive just so that you can feel momentarily better, because it won't heal it? It
Yeah.
won't heal it. It won't heal it to feel like you've gotten one up on somebody. The only type of, because I don't do baneful magic either, the only type of curse I will do is something called a God's Justice curse, and it is a karmic curse that can only be cast when you have true concern that other people will be harmed by the behaviors of an individual. And I
Yeah.
have cast it, but I've only cast it twice in a really serious fashion. And the first time I cast it, there was one personal element in there that I did end up removing, but I've never
Okay.
out the curses. Yeah, there was one personal element in there. I was so upset with the person and concerned about who they were as a person that initially I asked that they not be able to move on after this life, that they become disincarnate. And
Oh,
it was the element that I was like, okay, that's a personal thing. That's me looking to punish. So get that one
yeah.
out. And so I broke that element of it and left the rest of it intact, which is that their karma must return to them within this lifetime to the point of tenfold until such time as they learn a lesson and
Got it.
change their ways. And that is that baneful? No, that is protective. And
Yeah.
it's difficult for people to make the distinction between the two. It is the only way to do that particular curse is if you genuinely are worried about other people coming in contact with that person, not you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you.
Yeah.
If that kind of reciprocity, you can engage in it, it will work. But like I
Yeah.
said, if you open a door, it's going to come into you too. So think
Yeah.
that one through. Same thing
And
with
I,
magic. That same thing
yeah,
with magic.
it
If you are
is.
wanting to control another, you're opening the door to being controlled. Be careful with it. Be careful with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell people if that's where you're going, meaning you really want to control another person, you really want to harm another person, you're not done doing your work. You need to go do your shadow work. You need to go look at your own stuff because, controlling another person or, punishing them for what they did, that's a temporary feeling. It's really the stuff you have to work on. So I feel like that's a side of it that I don't get into. I'm like, instead I got to go do my own work. If I'm wishing ill on this person, I have work to do.
Yes, exactly. There's something to heal. It means you're still in pain, which means you're still traumatized, which means you have something within to heal so that you can be whole. And when
Yeah.
you're truly healed, the slights of others against you, they kind of, you see them for what they are, evidence of that person's damage or poor choices or walking down the wrong path. And you're going to want to be on your own, like spiritual evolutionary path so much that you will want to leave those things aside. And particularly as you continue to heal, you may even find that your desire for material things, you don't find them particularly satisfying and you don't crave them in the same way any longer, because the things that will satisfy you are the feeling of connection to spirit or divine or God or however you wish to term it, or the goddess, however you
Yeah.
wish to term it. It feeling in that flow, feeling as if there is a resonant joy that is available in your existence is part of what Wicca also taps into. And it is a very like nature-based and a very harmless-based energy.
Yeah.
And that is part of the reason that it's such a good idea for people who are looking to take their first steps towards magic to consider Wicca first, because it's hard to get in trouble with Wicca.
Yeah.
Wicca is
Agreed.
all about healing and drawing towards you the elements to give yourself a sense of balance and connection.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things we were talking about before we started, because we both do this, we add in elements of other things as we are called to. There is also flexibility in any practice that you're approaching because it is your practice. You can be given the framework, but think of it like a house that you are having built. You get to choose the finishes. And that is one
Yeah.
of the things that when you're working with magic, if you feel called to bring something else in, and you have, can you tell me a little bit about the things that you have brought in that are not necessarily Wicca, but work in conjunction with Wicca and how they are all interrelated and can flow together?
Yeah, absolutely. So, depending on what I'm doing, but I tend to work a lot with energy healing. I've done a ton of training around that. So two things. So energy medicine. So even before I start, I will do some grounding techniques. Like if I can't step outside, like where I'm tapping, doing acupressure points, like I feel like that gets you in your body, and can help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and gets your energy flowing in the right right direction. I work a lot, where I work a lot of going into the heart space energetically and really trying to open that. I feel like that makes the ritual, the spell, even more powerful, because you're coming at it from a place of being grounded and connected, and then from an open heart. So for me, that wasn't something I learned in Wicca. Wicca was about the protection, and then using the herbs, and putting them together in a meaningful way. So I will do that, but then I do a lot with like the law of attraction. So then I spend time, once I feel that connected piece, part of the ritual is to spend time feeling like it's already happening. And then I will write down in my workbook or my journal what that's like. So I'm trying to manifest some money. I sit there in with the divine of like how it had like this, I see it coming down through that channel, so I do all that, and I write in there for the longest time until I just feel it, and when I'm feeling it, then then I can let that go. So I will combine all parts of those. Now, when somebody commissions me to create a spell, I'll talk to them about what else they're open to, because sometimes it's more, let's create an offering, let's put together, a different kind of altar. There's a lot of other things, but that's for me, for my ritual component, bringing in the energy work, keeping the body grounded, and then spending time with the law of attraction component in that feeling piece is extremely powerful, and I think meaningful, meaning that the things come through when that happens.
One of the greatest things about Wicca as a practice is it can be practiced as a sole practitioner, but there are also communities available so that you can work with others to amplify the energy that you are creating and get bigger results. Do you work as a solitary or a sole practitioner, or do you work with a coven?
Yeah, I'm solitary. What I have found, as I sort of been working in the community, meeting people, joining groups, everybody does it differently. So it's very hard in the Wicca community to find like one pure way that everybody should be doing something. It can be a very personal thing. So when you join a coven, that group is sort of agreeing to do that certain, that the ritual, the style, whoever they're calling on, they're agreeing to do that. Me personally, because it's been so personal, and it evolves kind of every little bit, whatever I'm working on, or as I shift, my practice shifts a little bit. So for me, I'm not as, self-conscious when I'm doing it alone. So like one time I was out on my back deck and I had, the whole thing going, and I will open my arms, to the stars, and I'll call in the air, and I like to feel it. And one of my sons opened up the back door, and I was like, I felt so exposed, and I went on a retreat, like a weekend event it was put on by a Wiccan group. And I thought, oh, this is going to be amazing. And I hated every second of it. And not because it was bad, but just for me, I take it so personal, and it's so deep. And when you're around everybody else, and if you can tell somebody else isn't taking it as seriously, they don't feel it. So that's a long-winded way, to say, like, for me, it didn't work. But I think I like the community aspect. And I do think, like, when you are doing this work, it is powerful when you do it with others. Mm-hmm. You just have to find the people you're aligned with when you do it.
That's a really good point. And like one of the ways that people can understand it is that like we've all known vegans, and I actually am almost entirely plant-based in my diet as well, but I rarely refer to myself as a vegan, because vegan, it conveys a particular belief system. Some
Right.
people are vegan because it is what they're really called to, and some people are vegan because they're very interested in judging others, quite frankly. And they're called to different things because it's their part of their identity and gives them a sense of self-worth in a way that was not conveyed to them during their nurturing experience. So I'm not judging it. I'm saying it has a understandable psychological component to it, but that's how it ends up coming across to other people, is that it's like you might care very deeply about animals, but you're fine with people. And it's like, that's hard, because you're like, do no harm, do no harm, do no harm is the best way to approach anything. Do you have any advice for people who are trying to approach Wicca? Do you have anything that they should read, any online communities? Because some people are looking for that feeling of inclusion in a world that has become increasingly isolated in terms of connection. Do you have any suggestions for people?
Yeah, one of the best ways, two ways. First off, going onto Facebook and finding some local groups or groups. Most of them are great. Sometimes you'll get in there and you can tell when I call it really ego based, of like, no, do it my way, but you can usually see that most people in these groups, are willing to share their knowledge or have an opinion. And I've been really lucky, as I go on there, because I tend to be quiet and not like I know everything. And I'm like, wow, look at all these people who I'm aligned with, and then there's people who I'm not, but I'm like, well, I wouldn't do it that way, but it doesn't work for them. And then there's some groups where they're very like, if you're not doing it this way, then you're not a real, and I would say then just, hit unjoin and move on to find another one. There's a lot of great people on YouTube putting things, so if you type in Wicca, and then how I started was through books. Mm-hmm. I just started buying books, and then I bought a course on, like Udemy or one of those, and as she was explaining it, I was like, oh, wow, so it just sort of helped me understand it and build enough confidence to where I could then feel comfortable doing it however worked for me. So I got the basics doing it that way. But I had a lot of books that just helped me kind of understand it.
Any particular titles or authors that you appreciate?
I'm like, let me look over here on my list, or on my thing. Like I have this one. It just says spellcraft. I have let's see this. Okay, so this one, the spell book for new witches. Mm-hmm. That one I've referenced a lot. There's another one. I see it over here, 1001 Spells. And I cannot see her name over there. But that was, like, you go through and you see how simple it is. And, and there's just so many options of ways that you can work with it. So the 1001 Spells to me was my favorite. I should get up and show it to you. It's got like a gazillion earmarks of like tabs sticking out. It's like, ooh, try this one. Ooh, try that one. So it's got a lot.
Whenever you're reaching for a resource, remember, you do not have to do things in a rigid manner. Rigidity actually blocks manifestation. And so what you're talking about, where somebody says you have to do it this way, it's like, if you're not called to it, then no, you shouldn't. And
it has to feel good. And the way I teach it is like, if I go like this, I'm like, all right. And if I'm like, like as soon as I just feel myself kind of closing in, I just move on from it now. I feel, really confident in doing that. And now that we're saying that, I'm like thinking about all my books downstairs. There's several books. The Solitary Witch, that was a good one, has a lot of basics. And then there was another one, and it was like how they combine the shamanic practice with witchcraft, and you see the similarities. And that was a really good book too. Sorry, I was like, I don't want to forget to say those.
No, it's very important. Please remember that on any like Barnes & Noble or Amazon or any other book selling site, if you don't have a bookseller in town, and sometimes they don't have the inventory, you can actually just type in Wicca into a search engine, and you will get return and look at the reviews, and take the time to read some excerpts as well. There are many different resources. You do have to take the steps towards something for it to come towards you, but every major bookseller actually has metaphysical information on this, and you are not banned from participating in a belief system if you have come from another one. Meaning,
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people who were like raised in Catholicism who became Wiccans. It does, and it's not. What you learn on a magical journey is that there are validity to all the ways to approach magic, the feminine and the masculine divine, and the earth spirits, and all of the elemental spirits as well. Now, the one thing I will always tell people is, please don't summon fairies. You don't know what they are. They don't play by human rules. They simply do not. And remember, they think that we are the lesser form of light. And from their standpoint, that is true. So
Yeah.
don't, like, you're not calling in a guard dog, you're calling in a giant when you call in a form of fairy. Please do not summon things you do not understand. And please remember, when you are doing that research, is don't go look for a spell to do a particular thing if you're not going to do the other surrounding details of it. For instance, if you're doing a Wicca spell, then you need to have an understanding of what Wicca is. If you do magic you do not understand, expect really funky results.
Yeah.
One of the things that you had spoken about is incorporating the law of attraction into some of your practices. And that is, I think, really essential to understanding how the law of attraction works. The law of attraction I refer to as flash and thunder magic. It will actually work, but because it does not have the underpinnings of the elements of this reality and the, kind of programmed reciprocity that makes for really strong manifestations, it has a tendency to come in and out of reality very easily because it's not anchored in this reality. One of the best ways to anchor the law of attraction is to have a ritual or a belief system or a magic practice that you then incorporate it into. The law of attraction does not work all that well all by itself. And I understand that's going to upset people. And that whole thing where you're not allowed to have negative thoughts or doubt that's not healthy. That's called denial. That will make you very, very sick over the course of time.
Well, it's not balanced.
It's
not balanced.
Exactly what it is. It has no balance to it. And your negative stuff is still there, whether or not you're acknowledging it. Repression just makes people sick.
Yeah.
So incorporating it in some of the styles into another practice will give you much better results. So if you're struggling with the law of attraction, please remember that. It has a lot of good ideas, but it's like half of the yin yang. It only has the light and it doesn't have any of the dark. And you need dark and light elements and energy to make sure something is actually going to be in this reality. And darkness is not evil. It is part of the earth element. And that it's the gravity. It's the thing that pins things into this reality. So please understand that it's a supplement and it's like trying to live on vitamins alone. You need other things. You would need other magical nourishments to go into manifestations to get the results you really, really want.
I think it makes you more effective for sure. I do. Like I was big in the school of New Thought and if you just think positive, all of these things will come. And to me, that was not working. So that was also for me, Wicca, helped me balance that whole thing out. Cause I do believe in focusing on all of that. There's a lot that's good. But if you don't work on the other side and you just pretend like you don't have the shadow side or the ego side or the yang side, that it comes back.
It's also very difficult to achieve actual self-love, self-acceptance, and access to your true power if you will not acknowledge aspects of your own humanity, which is what a shadow side is. It is part of your humanity. In this particular form, listen, it's not all puppies and roses. We do have, anger and greed and other base desires that go into our impulses that are, when we understand them, we can control them. My saying is, put your monster on a leash and make it work for you. Yeah. But that's not the same thing as sedating and drugging your monster to sleep and pretending it's not there.
Zoning it out, checking it out. Yeah. My terminology is integrating it, working with it. We're in partnership. I'm not here having a human experience to have the Pollyanna version. I think if that's what you think, then I think you're only having half the experience and you're probably miserable.
Well, and the other part, and listen, it must sound like I just do nothing but bag on the law of attraction. That is not the case. It's just so many people are investing in the law of attraction. So we need to start talking about why it's not working for a lot of people. And that's why. Is it only part of the elements that you need to have something come into reality? And people who are suffering reach for solutions. And often it's like you can't ignore a gaping wound on your body. Please don't ignore it in your psyche.
Yeah. But we do, or we find something and it's temporary that, you feel like it's it's fixing it. And the way that I tell people, I'm like, you don't work, the law of attraction just is, right? But your ability to work with it, or your ability to thrive with it is when you take a more integrated approach. Yeah, that is for sure. I see so many people who are hurting and they just want a quick fix. They just want something that just makes them feel better in that instant. And that's, to me, it's another human thing we do, and it's temporary, so it's, you got to get connected. Like, that's why I'm like, it's just, there's no other way around it. Like, that's the only way to get back into the center place so you can do the work.
And you just hit upon exactly what I was going to say. When they're looking for that quick fix, for that, something to make them feel better, there's nothing better than a grounding ritual to make you feel connected, to bring yourself back into balance. The other thing is, when you feel wretched, please drink a big glass of water and eat a healthy meal. I swear to God, putting your body back into balance will help as much as anything else you can do.
Yeah.
Now,
when I don't feel well, I go to the foot spa and they do acupressure on my feet. And I'm like, every time I'm like, that's my doctor, like they kind of work with my energy. And the other thing is, we're going down this theme. I really, like, people start to go, well, just cast a spell, just cast a spell. I'm like, you cannot forget your body needs support too. And while, yes, I don't know, there might be people out there who are living on air. You're not there yet. And so you have to support the physical and the spiritual, just like you have to support the manifestation with the shadow work. Like, if you just look at everything as a balancing act and you have to do both, I feel like that helps you not be so hard on yourself. Because what I see is people are in so much pain. And so they pick something that makes them, they feel connected, but it makes them feel worse, right? Like, you're gonna, you're going to hell if you don't do these things, or it's all these things that become very fear-based, because you're in a you're too much on the fear. So you pick those modalities that keep you in that place versus the balanced one.
One of the things that you had referred to was the idea that, like, when things are going wrong, when you're suffering, when you don't have enough money, whenever it is, like, people who know that you do any form of magic are like, do a spell, do a spell, do a spell. It's like, no, that is not actually that. Here's what you're doing when you do a spell: is you are reshaping the energy around you into a more desired form. It is something that the rituals are good because it gives you the access to balance and to elements. But spells are best done to accomplish something, and it is not something that you will do over and over again.
Yeah.
If your go-to becomes, I will do a spell, look for a life that has a lot of fluctuations in it, because you know what you're doing? You're making the energy fluctuate around you constantly.
Constantly. Well, and I tell people, I'm like, to me, there's a difference between a full Wicca ritual versus a spell or an enchantment. That's the word I like to use. So, if you're doing an enchantment, that's like just saying, I'm going to remind the law of attraction what I want to manifest. That's a whole different thing versus a ritual that is very deeply rooted and spiritual versus the spell or and that's why, and that to me is our psychosis of quick fix. I need a quick fix. I need a quick fix. And I see a lot of people do that with spellcraft, of like, okay, I need a quick fix. And, it is short-lived when that's your path.
It's the flash and the thunder, kind of thing that I'm always talking about. Here, one of the things that you had also talked about is you have shamanic training as well. Can you tell me how you're incorporating that into your magic practice? And then also, what kind of training did you receive?
Yeah, so I just took some classes, and I read several books, and I did their CDs. I was like, I'm dating myself when I say their CDs, but that's what they were. And where you go through the ritual component of it, of learning how to do that. And as I was learning Wicca, this was after, I started to see the similarity of the steps, right? Like when you're, same thing. And then when you're doing a prayer. So I became a prayer practitioner through the New Thought, and church. And that I was like, they're all the same thing. So my training was not, I didn't go and do, with a shaman. I've worked with a lot of amazing shamans, but my training was more so self-taught and doing some courses with them. So I like to do the offerings, that come with that. They're very much about getting connected.
Can you give me
I
an
love.
example of what an offering would be?
So you can do like where you take paper and you will take things and you put your things inside. I'm trying to think of the name of that, a gazpacho or despacho ritual.
Mhm,
I know another person, they go out and they give a daily offering,
mhm.
for to the earth, for what they're looking for that day. I've done rapé ceremonies, where you're doing tobacco and you're having a very spiritual. I've gone deep into the Middle Earth, and those done drumming ceremonies where they're had beautiful experiences doing that. And they all start with a moment to connect, setting the space,
Mhm.
calling in the help of whoever they're calling in. Usually in shaman, it's a lot about the earth, or their guides. And then, doing the physical thing. So it's all the same. So you're doing something physical, right? Drumming or doing the offering or doing whatever. There's also the walking that you do. That there's the shaman walk that you can do. Um,
Is it
so
similar
then
to Nordic walking, which is a mindful form of walking? You're carrying a stick. It's your practice. Like it's a form of dropping into your body and being very aware. Um,
yeah.
it's similar to that, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, I don't know that one, but that to me, I'm like, when people say that, I'm like, what I wish I was more eloquent about is seeing the threads are the same through each different thing. They're all about somehow getting into your body, getting grounded, and then connecting. I mean, they're all the same philosophy. It's just the different way that it's packaged to you.
I'll talk a little bit about the type of offerings I do because I think they should translate into other practices as well. And I did this
Okay.
before I started speaking today. Was I went to it's a botanic garden. There's a very private area of it that I'm able to get to, where I cast a kind of a standing circle that I go in and out of, and I recast it every time I go there. And I take rolled oats, steel cut oats, and peanuts, and I bless and activate them and empower them to offer to the crows, to the birds, to the spirits of air. And that is one of the ways that I connect with the elements. And I will do handfuls of them all over the place, particularly within
Mm,
the circle after I cast it. And then when I'm at home working with my home altar, the offerings that are for the guardians, the angels, the ancestors, and also the spirits, is frequently I use sweets a great deal. And there's a reason that something that has a very vague vice relationship, like tobacco or a sweet liqueur or a baked good or a nice bread and a hot cup of coffee type of thing, it's like you're inviting a guest into your home. And so
yeah.
your offerings can be exactly as they would be for an honored guest that you are inviting into your home on your home altar. You can, like, the last one I just did was strawberry chocolate chip pancakes because it's what I had the stuff in the house to make. And so that's what I made for part of the new moon offering. And I do an offering on each day of the new moon, and I'll put it out with some form of tea, or occasionally for like certain things, I'll put out like a little shot glass worth of Grand Marnier to go along with these sweets. So I basically
Nice.
serve a dessert as
Okay.
an frequently. And by the way, if you use something as an offering, do not eat it. It is meant to be energetically consumed. So even though at the end of it you are thanking it for its purpose and disempowering it before disposing of it, you cannot eat it because it is meant to be energetically void.
Yeah.
You are
Well, and
not.
it's an offering. So
Mhm.
when if you eat it, then you're like taking it back.
Well, some people feel that it's wasteful, and it's like, no, really, do think of it as a guest you cannot see.
Yeah.
If you gave a guest a piece of cake within your home and they consumed it, you would not consider it being wasted. When you put an
Yeah.
offering on your altar to help bring about a manifestation, you are assuming it is being energetically consumed. And there is a reason that you do these very vaguely vice related things. And it is because if you are working with anything that has been human, the things that they have the most recollection of have to do with indulgences. everything having to do with pleasure, which is something that eludes things in the same manner in a disincarnate or a disembodied form. But they have a recollection of the energy. And so they understand what you're doing, even if like pancakes and chocolate chips don't exist in another realm, they understand the intent behind it. One of the books that I would recommend for people, even if they're approaching something like Wicca, it's a very old book. It's by, I think, Ray Buckland, and it's Candle Magic. And it will teach you how to dress a candle, how to carve a candle, and how to set up a basic altar. And that is another place that you can start, particularly if you're going towards something as a soul practitioner and you're going to be a little bit like, I'm doing this self-styled. I believe that my connection to magic will come to me intuitively. Get the resources to help you understand the first basic steps. Look at it as, you're learning how to bake from the Betty Crocker cookbook. But as you progress, you're going to get more and more sophisticated with things that fit your personal needs. But get information on the basics, and there are great, that 1001 Spells book. I also have it. It's a very good book. You can get that sucker at Barnes and Noble. It is available in the mainstream. There is information available to you. And again, if you go to Google being a friend, you can find a place that will explain the differences between all magics. And the reason that I encourage people to go towards Wicca if they are just starting is that Wicca, with its do no harm philosophy, is very unlikely to have. I'm laughing because if you've ever seen a real blowback or a backfire on a spell, it can be amusing, but it has fewer likelihoods of backfiring in a dramatic way where you're like, how do I even undo this? If you're working with something that has the do no harm philosophy. And does it mean you'll always stay there? No, actually, one of the best hoodoo practitioners I've ever seen started out as a Wicca practitioner. And that lady is a badass. But she felt called to Wicca at first, and then understand that in your magical and powerful and spiritual journey, you may feel called to other things that may be incorporated, or that could be essentially your primary education in magic. And when you take your master's, you move to a different discipline or a different practice.
Can I say one thing? Because your key word in there was what you feel. So if you are feeling connected to it and it feels like it's working, then that's great. And if you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not feeling like it's doing what it needs to do, that's when you can look, to add other things. So as I've done my research, I'm like, there are a gazillion types of witches out there, or you don't have to feel trapped into one thing. And most of us pick a hodgepodge, like I like a little of this, I like a little of that, and I think that comes with confidence, but it has to come because it feels good, like it feels expansive to you.
In Wicca, is it considered a closed practice?
Yeah. Well, it depends on who you talk to, honestly. But to me, I consider it to be a closed practice.
Now, closed practices, in the most strict definition of the term, is you need to be born into a belief system. That is not how it actually works. A closed practice, you have to enter the belief system and participate in it at a deep level, be initiated into it in some belief systems, and be accepted into it to have full access to it. And what it really is about respect. It genuinely is.
And here's why I hesitate. I'm like, in this particular lifetime, but I think we've all been all of these things.
Exactly. That's what I'm always trying to tell people. In this shape and form, you may not have been born into that closed practice, but if you are very drawn to it, remember, you have been different people at different times. And like past life regressions on me would, I'm sure, be hilarious, because I don't think I've had anything other than magical lifetimes. And I walked around through different belief systems.
And I think in this day and age, we have so much more. What I like now is there's so much more information, right? We're living in a time where, way back when, you didn't know the other things. Like it was, just, you didn't understand. And even though you could still make the argument that a lot of people don't understand, we have a lot more information and a lot more access to understanding that. And I think we're more open to our past lifetimes. So while I think people feel like it has to be closed, I feel like we're all in each one anyway. So we're all born into it anyway. But that's my personal
Yeah,
belief.
gatekeeping is a way of trying to claim ownership as well. Act
Yeah.
respectfully in everything that you do, and you will likely be just fine. And by the way, if you're trying to use a practice that is not for you, you will know it will either not work or something will go drastically and inventively wrong, and you'll be like, never again.
Yeah.
So understand that you never need a biped to gatekeep another magical practice. Listen, as we close out here, we need to talk about the elephant in the room for people who absolutely know nothing about magic, is that they confuse Wicca with Satanism because of the consort of the feminine divine, sometimes referred to as the horned god, which for some people looks like the devil. It's not the devil, guys. It's not. Can you talk to me about what the horned god really is?
I don't, I'm not really like, I don't even use that terminology. I've had a lot of people, I'm like, I don't know if I could, I'm like, I don't know if I could talk to that. Other than I have a lot of people who, are very opposed to what I do and feel like they say you're doing the devil's work. And I'm like, I really don't think you understand what I'm doing, because I like we've said, it's for the good. There's nothing evil or whatever about it. But I think that what we don't understand, or that we can't control, we tend to put the evil or demonic things out there. I had a super interesting conversation with somebody. We were having this great back and forth. I'm like, wow, we're really aligned. And she just said, oh, by the way, I'm a Satanist. And I was like, oh. I was like, what does that mean? And I was like, wow, like I thought, okay. And then I read about it, and it was like, I don't know if I could regurgitate it, but it has nothing that I thought it meant. It was so I think there's like 3 different versions, right? Like it was
more
very
mystic than people believe. It genuinely is not usually about sacrificing babies and all kinds of crap.
No, none of that.
It's a mystic belief about pleasure in most incarnations.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that people need to, like, because people do the same thing to me when they hear that I'm a tarot reader and I'm a witch. It's like, well, you're doing the devil's work. It's like, I literally work with archangels, and it works, which means I'm summoning archangels. The magic works, which means that it is angels helping me. Like nothing can come in under that guise.
I said that's the fear-based stuff.
It's about controlling women. Like let's not pretend here. The reason that the Bible and that so many Christians are taught that magic is evil is that they do not want women having any power, and women are often more easily called to magic because we can create life with our own bodies. Out creation. And so women are far more likely to feel that. It doesn't mean that magic doesn't belong to men as well. It's just that women often see the manifestations of it in their life before they even have a practice. And by the way, magic was in the Bible. It was the book of Enoch. It was one of the moves. So what you think you know about the approach from the divine to magic, you do not know. It has.
I feel like I need like a preach button.
You've been programmed to believe something that is not true, that is trying to deny you access to your own personal power. Please don't buy the propaganda around magic. Some practices do call on dark things. Some practices do conjure demons and other dark spirits, but you will know about it. And secondly, not all magic does that. It is your intent that determines your walk through a magical land. Nothing can come and get you unless you are calling it to you.
Unless you're open to that. When you're setting your intentions, and you're setting your boundaries in your space, and it's, only light may enter. That's it. Only light may enter. So the rest of it, I used to get really caught up in it and be like, oh my God, how do I get them to understand? And now I realize they can't, because I consider it to be a bit of a brainwashing. And they're just in that program.
It's programming. It's programming.
Yeah, it's a program. And I would encourage anybody to, before you judge it, at least sit with one ritual, watch something, do something so that you can actually understand it.
Used for healing quite a bit.
Yeah. Most people that were called witches back in the day were the ones that could heal you with herbs, or that could, it was all to help you. None of it was, but just like, because we're humans and because we have egos, somebody uses it for bad and then gives everybody else a bad name. I think you can use any, formal religion in a really good and positive way or not. Same thing goes for Wicca. Like, it depends on the person doing it.
Well, there's also, I call them power structures. Religions are power structures.
Yeah.
Power structures have a tremendous interest in making sure that you have to go through them to feel like you are accessing power.
Yeah.
Magic tells
And
you.
the answer, it's like, you're my intuition. And what I'm saying and what you're saying is you have direct access.
You do not need to go between to get to the divine. If you want to go to, I know, religions have been so misused that they are very complicated structures at this point. The teachings of most of the central figures of a religion have great validity. The things surrounding that are all about putting in structure and the ability to control. And since it is almost exclusively in some major religions aimed at women controlling women, if you are a woman, please ask yourself, do you really believe a divine power would have said that you are a lesser form of life when life cannot exist without you?
Thank you. I mean,
Abbie, what is it that you do that you can offer to people? Because you've been talking a lot about Wicca, but you offer services as an intuitive coach. You are also, I believe, a reader. Is that correct?
So what I do, I am not a reader. I like to teach people how to do their own readings. Okay. So I provide ritual kits. So I teach you how to do the ritual that I've put together, and I've blended all of these modalities together into one ritual, and will help you. So I've got some kits that are pre-made, or I teach you how to do the ritual yourself and create your own. I really believe that that's when we're all getting connected and doing that process. I don't care what the rest of it
go between, like I just said.
Like. Yeah. So that's what I'm teaching. I do offer kits to help you get started. That I like to blend crystals and essential oils, and candle magic is my favorite. Mm-hmm. I do all of that, and give you the kit to do that. Or where I'm really going right now is giving you workbooks, mm-hmm. So that you can start to learn, because I think that's the thing that helped me was a daily practice. Yes. And so no tool matters, no practice matters if you don't do it. So that's sort of my thing of giving you the tools that you can do on a daily basis, that will help you shift. It will help you work with however you want to do it. I'm not really caught up as much on the modality. If you like mine, great, I've got that, but then you can take it and then kind of add or take away what you like.
You can create your own structure. That's great. Where can people find you?
So my website is intuitive-resources.com. And then I'm on, right now I'm doing the tarot, or oracle cards, but I'm really getting ready to, push the workbooks. I have this beautiful workbook that I've been doing it now for over a year. And I'm like, I just wish everybody understood how powerful this was. It's a daily practice of tuning in, connecting, and getting guidance using oracle or tarot cards, working with your body, working with your dreams, and working with the pendulum. So all these tools that you can do to help you tap into your own intuition. So
feel better connected and better in flow. And it'll also give you a feeling of having a structure within your life that you can rely on when things are going crazy. You know what you can do to make yourself feel better, and it is part of a healing practice. Hey, Abbie, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your information and talking magic with me. I really genuinely appreciate it. I'm Alane. You can find me at therisingmoon.com, therisingmoon.com, or on my YouTube channel, Cronecast at The Rising Moon. You can book me for a tarot reading or a life coaching session through my website. It's the only way to book me. Be careful. A lot of tarot readers have people who impersonate them, approaching them through DMs. It's never the real reader, guys. It's somebody usually in an African nation, and they will be using WhatsApp. And it's very easy to spot if you have been exposed to it before, but it can come off as if you really don't know that is a very common thing within this particular community. Please know it. Real people who do this for a living are not going
Never.
to call you, okay?
Never.
They're not
Yeah.
going to show up in your DMs feeling called to give you a reading, but they do charge, and that is what the messages almost always say. So thank you again for joining me, guys. Live magically, find your practice, find your power, and find your peace. Take care. Be well.